Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Every Bird Group Ranked. We are working our way through every single bird in the world, and we are learning what makes that animal super interesting. So I hope you're ready to learn some new things about animals. I'm here with Backyard Expeditions. He's running an amazing YouTube channel that you can go and watch. I'm watching every single time he puts out a new video, and every week I'm learning something new. So I hope you go there too. We're going to get started with our birds, though.
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, you're going to start being excited about birds right now.
Have to start. Gotta flip it on.
Our first bird group that we're going to talk about are the Podicipediformes.
Pedicipedaformes.
Yeah!
I like that.
There are the grebes. There are 23 species, and they are all grebes. Here is a grebe as an example. These are diving birds with legs at the back of their bodies and pointy beaks, but they're not related to loons. Grebes have feet that are mostly lobed instead of webbed, and they can control their buoyancy with unique belly feathers that can trap or release air. Grebes also eat some of their feathers, which is very unusual among birds. There are some guesses why, but this is still mostly mysterious. So, grebes, are they diverse?
Are they diverse? Unfortunately, I don't think.
Yeah,
There's a lot of grebes. There's a lot more grebes than you would think, like when you're talking about one group of birds, but it's still a fairly small.
Yeah, there's 23 different kinds, but it's all grebes. Are these birds famous?
This is one I don't actually know. I think people have heard of them, but I don't actually know.
Obviously, ducks and geese and swans are in the famous category, and everybody knows about them. But I think grebes kind of get overshadowed by these other types of waterfowl. They look kind of similar, and I don't think people go out of their way to be like, oh, that duck-looking thing looks slightly different than normal ducks, so like let's learn what that is. So
Okay, we'll say that they don't get fame.
yeah, unfortunately.
It is unfortunate.
Are these birds amazing in some way?
They have this really beautiful sort of dance that they do, and it's one of the most wonderful natural phenomena in the world.
Is that the one where they run on the surface of the water?
Yeah, and there's a whole lead up of sort of mimicking each other's behaviors and trying to be in perfect sync.
Yeah, I've seen it before, and that is amazing. I'll put in a video of it here if I can find one. Is this animal intriguing?
I think the feather eating thing is really interesting because I've heard everything from trying to shield the internal guts from sharp fish bones, or I think there's even ones like trying to get the digestive system prepped in young birds. Yeah, it's sort of an interesting question. Also, like the loons, they have a lot of trouble walking, except I think it's even worse for them, where it's even further back and they're more top heavy, so it's really... They can't walk at all. And when you see like pictures, I've never seen a grebe fly, but they look like they have such tiny wings. I often have trouble imagining these birds flying, but they must because they migrate.
Right. And then there's the ability to control their buoyancy also is kind of interesting.
That is really cool. Yeah.
Like I've never heard about that in any other type of bird.
It's a really neat sort of usage of sort of the feather of muscle feather control.
Yeah, so if we studied these birds, we'd probably learn a lot. It's unfortunate that they get confused with ducks all the time. Yeah. Are these birds beautiful?
I mean, that is a very nice... I think that's an eared grebe. Yeah, that's an eared grebe.
Right. Yep.
And the mating dance is beautiful. They all the grebes I've seen, at least in their mating plumage, are very stunning birds.
Yeah, I agree. I did pick an unusually beautiful one, but the other ones look very nice as well.
That is a particularly beautiful eared grebe. You don't see all that nice rust-colored red feathers on them, and
the bright red eye. Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful bird. Well, this bird got 3 stars out of 5.
Good.
Nice. Good job, grebes.
Good grebes.
Good grebes.
Another t-shirt idea.
The next group that we're going to talk about is probably one that every single person has been looking forward to. It's the Psittaciformes, the parrots. There are 398 species of parrots. But they are all just parrots. There is no other type of bird in the group other than parrots. Parrots are among the most intelligent and longest living birds in the world. There are claims of macaws living up to 115 years, but their average is a respectable 60 years. They are diurnal, flying, social birds, with the one exception of the kakapo, which is nocturnal, flightless, and solitary. Their ability to copy sounds and general intelligence make them famous among birds. I help take care of parrots professionally in an aviary and can confirm they are really clever. But just throwing it out there, I would never recommend a parrot as a pet. Almost all parrot species are in decline due to habitat loss and illegal capture for the pet trade. Are these birds diverse?
So we have, well over 300 species. I have the book, by the way, if anybody wants to see all the birds in the world, all the parrots in the world. There is a Parrots of the World book that has all the species. And then, you can break them up into quite a few groups where you have New Zealand parrots are very divergent. You've got cockatoos. You've got the lory group, lories and lorikeets, macaws, parakeets. Parakeets are kind of a catch-all for like conures and a couple of like rosella things.
Right, yeah.
But it's like they're just like naming it. There's a lot of birds. It's like that is even though it's a parrot, that is specifically like a rosella or a conure.
So yeah, and they're worldwide. They're pantropical everywhere in the world that is warm enough for them to live. These are definitely a diverse group of birds. Are these birds famous?
I think they're very famous.
Yeah, I kind of chose one of the famous parrots as the example, the blue and gold macaw, but even like cockatoos are famous, budgies are famous, like a lot of the birds that you just named are also famous.
Not putting a night parrot on there, which I think would be the distinction of being like, what is a night parrot?
Right, yeah. Even though people might not know that all of those birds are related and that they're all parrots, that somebody's going to recognize and remember any of the various parrot species, or even just the word parrot. So they are
easy for a group to remember. Yeah, I think they're famous.
Yeah, so they are diverse. They are famous. Are these birds amazing?
There are so many amazing facts, especially in just how kind of a diverse set of ways they live. You've got parrots that'll eat clay to help with digestion. There's a couple parrots that go way outside that tropical lifestyle where you have a couple species that live on the Antipodes Islands south of New Zealand, which are subantarctic and basically tundra. They really have to use all the resources and they use those sharp beaks to like eat meat and stuff.
And that's the Kia?
The Kia also eats meat.
Okay.
Those are also another weird bird that live up in mountains instead of in the tropics. So basically New Zealand has weird parrots.
I've got some parrot facts. I talk about this for a living. This is like what I do. Parrots have muscles in their upper and lower jaws, and both of their jaws are mobile. They can open both. All of those muscles focus down on one little point on their lower beak, and macaws, the large ones, can apply up to 1,500 pounds per square inch of force with their beaks. They are super strong. They use that to crack open hard-shelled nuts that other birds can't access, which gives them access to a source of calories that there's no competition for. Their vocal abilities, their ability to copy sounds, people probably know that they can copy voices, but they can also copy all kinds of other sounds. They can copy animals, dogs, cats. They can copy alarms, telephones. And they'll kind of copy whatever gets them the most attention. There are birds that they learn certain phrases, get a lot more attention. There are birds that can copy the fire alarm sounds because that gets a lot of attention, or the sounds of telephones does as well. In their natural environment, the reason that they have this mimicking ability is because when researchers were studying parrots, they found that 90% of parrots populations that they studied made different sounds within each group. So they're calling it a dialect. It's hard to say whether it is actually a completely different language that's not mutually intelligible, but at the very least, we can say they make different sounds. So when a young parrot flies off and joins a new flock, it has to listen and learn the local sounds and then mimic them in order to fit in. And that's the basis they think of the mimicking behavior. Another parrot fact that's kind of famous is that the African gray, there was one named Alex that was very famous among animal intelligence in general, like the entire field, because it's a bird that knew 300 words. He knew comparison words, where he could say bigger, smaller, more, fewer, and he could classify things into categories like shape, color, and material. And he also knew the words for the categories. So this is like abstract thinking that we had previously thought was very limited to humans and maybe a couple of other animals. And suddenly this bird comes out of nowhere and suddenly is like breaking every stereotype of what birds can know.
Yeah, I remember seeing videos of Alex when I was younger. It was very impressive to watch. Which unfortunately his fame probably, people got way too interested in having African greys as pets.
Sure. And then they were declared an endangered species just a couple years ago. Did we establish a while ago that parrots are amazing?
Oh, parrots are totally amazing.
And then the next question that we have is, are parrots intriguing? Is there anything else that we could learn about them?
I think as a whole sort of animal intelligence, and a lot is not as well known. Ecologically, parrots are very interesting because they are, for the most part, these sort of seed predators, which is plants are always fighting, and there's like a little sort of war going on between parrots and plants. Yeah, there's just so many questions that could be asked about parrots specifically.
Yeah. Okay, so very intriguing, and there's probably more out there that we just don't even know we don't know. I don't know if it's even worth asking. Are parrots beautiful?
Can we think of a bad-looking parrot? And then...
the kakapo looks like an owl. It's cute.
It looks like an owl. It's a very handsome bird.
Sure.
Because it's got like the sideburn. It looks like they're very handsome looking. What are those ones? The
palm cockatoo?
Not the palm. That is a very odd looking bird. It's still very like that is a striking bird.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
What is it? It's not the vulture-headed parrot, but there's some.
Pesquet's
parrot.
I think you're right. Yeah, Pesquet's parrot. Anyway, that one is beautiful. French. It just looks weird,
but it's beautiful. It just looks different than other parrots.
So, what we're doing is we're debating whether out of the 398 species, whether there is one that is not beautiful.
There's some that are just green.
Yeah.
But there's like a vibrant green. So it's like, they're all pretty.
Yeah. All right. Let's give them the beautiful star for sure. They're in the top tier of birds as far as our ranking system is concerned.
Yep. Which makes sense.
Our next bird group, we're going to move to Anseriformes. They are waterfowl. There's ducks, geese, swans, and screamers. Notably, in my list of famous members in this group, I wrote ducks, geese, and swans, and not screamers, because I don't think people have heard of them. It's just memorable once you have. The Anseriformes are one of two bird groups that survived the extinction event which took out the dinosaurs, the other being Galliformes, or chicken-like birds. The differences between ducks, geese, and swans are surprisingly subtle, so if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it still might be a red-breasted goose. All Anseriformes are adapted to live at the water surface, generally by floating and swimming, but the alarmingly named screamers wade in shallow water with non-webbed feet. Also, screamers have air bubbles in their skin that crackle like bubble wrap when they are touched, which may be how they got their name.
That's unsettling. They're also very loud. I always thought it was because I've heard them make noises before, and they're very loud birds. So I thought that was why they're called screamers. But yeah, now I'm like thinking, ugh.
Are these birds diverse? There's 178 species, and there's 4 major types.
They're over 100.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 4 major groups that could be endlessly broken down, really.
Right.
Ducks are a way overstudied group of birds for obvious reasons.
Because they live in the same places as European researchers.
And people have hunted them for hundreds of years. So there is a lot of duck. We got mergansers and dabbling ducks and diving ducks. Yeah, it's just sort of...
Especially based on that, I think we can give them the diversity star safely.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're very different too. Like a screamer and a merganser are completely different birds.
Right, and a goose with the long neck. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And swans are a whole other thing.
Are these birds famous? Would people remember?
I think swans, geese, and ducks are like in the top 5.
Yeah, like maybe all 3. Okay, so these birds are famous, like, undoubtedly. So we'll give them a star for that. Are these birds amazing?
There are some really impressive migrations within this group. Yeah, bar-headed geese like the demoiselle crane fly over the Himalayas. They're still flying from the tundra to the subtropics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty impressive. And of course, there's a whole wide range of lifestyles you have species that live in these raging mountain torrent streams, like the harlequin duck or the torrent duck.
That's a good name for a duck.
And they're also like the 2 most beautiful ducks. It's just like saying there's something about mountain stream ducks that's just amazing.
Cool.
You've got a bunch of species that live in Arctic polynyas, which are just sort of where the currents open up a hole in the sea ice, and so it's the only access to the water below the ice. And there's like eiders and things like spend the winters in these freezing cold Arctic conditions.
Nice.
And then you've got species like the nene, which are wandering around on exposed lava fields. and then
the floor is literally lava.
It's all cold lava, but it's like rugged and probably still under a tropical sun is probably pretty hot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then to top it all off, you have a bunch of tree living species that the babies, the first thing they have to do is jump out of a tree sometimes onto the ground.
Yeah.
A ridiculous distance.
Yeah, I was reading about the mandarin duck, and the babies have to jump maybe up to 60 feet down to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Okay, well, you give them the amazing star for sure. And I don't think we even talked about all the different groups.
We haven't even talked about, we've dabbled at the surface like a dabbler.
Yeah, dabbling at the surface of how amazing these birds are. Excellent. Are these birds intriguing? If we studied them more, could we learn something interesting?
I think there's a lot of interesting things, especially as one of the 2 bird orders that has made it from the Cretaceous to today, which I think most modern birds are from some groups that have now diverged into everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But there's probably like a ratite type bird, but it would after the extinction, then it became ostriches and tenements and things. These are 2 groups that seem to have started back when they're dinosaurs and then continued on afterwards. And I think that's sort of, there's a lot of interesting paleontology to do on ducks specifically.
Sure.
As well as just physiology things.
Yeah, comparative biology is like, okay, so these 2 birds had an origin together before the dinosaurs would extinct. So is there anything in common or interestingly different between the 2?
Yeah.
Cool. Finally, are these birds beautiful?
I think pretty much all of them are.
Yeah. Canada goose is beautiful.
I would think the Australian musk duck is kind of a weird bird because it has a bizarre like thing under its mouth. It's like, what is a musk? Steve's gonna look it up.
Yeah. No. Ow. Okay, yeah, that's a weird. Okay, it still looks nice without that thing.
It's still a nice looking duck. It's still like a duck, but it's just weird looking.
One of the things that I've really thought about as I was walking around in the spring, looking at the river a lot, is like how amazing mallard ducks are. Just like, look at it's got like an iridescent green head. It's got a beautiful blue or a beautiful white collar. It's got iridescent feathers on its wings. It's got like, if one could wish for a beautiful bird to just be kind of like all over the place, one would wish for something like a mallard duck.
Yeah, the mallard is a gorgeous bird. Yeah, there are some very beautiful, super common birds.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can give them the beautiful star, which in turn makes them the second 5-star bird group out of this group of birds.
2 in a row. This is exciting.
So our next bird group, we'll see if it can continue the streak. The Procellariiformes. Hey, that went pretty well.
We'll say that that's right.
These are the tube-nosed seabirds, the petrels, shearwaters, albatrosses, storm petrels, and diving petrels. And there's 147 species. The famous members in this group, just albatross. I'm going to say all the rest of them not so famous. Tube-nosed seabirds get their name because their nostrils are enclosed in tubes. Their general life strategy is to live on the 70% of the Earth that is water, living in a very big open ocean and eating the food to be found there. Their anti-predator strategy is to fly to an island without predators, which is great as long as people in boats aren't spreading invasive carnivores like cats and rats to various islands. If that happens, which it did, then tube-nosed seabirds decline in population. Some members practice a flight style called dynamic soaring, where they lock their wings and used wind speed differences near the water to fly with almost no energy spent. Are these birds diverse?
I don't know, you named it's well over 100 species.
147.
And you just named off a whole bunch of different kinds of...
3 of them were petrels, though. There's petrels, storm petrels, and diving petrels.
They're different, though. Like part of me is like, those are very different birds with completely different life strategies.
Okay, well, we can give them the diversity star right off the bat, so that's nice. Are these birds famous?
That is a good question. Petrels, not so much. I think some cultures will do hunt petrels, so they would know about them. But I guess albatross, are they famous enough to be like, I would remember albatross? There is a poem.
There is a
Rhyme
poem
of the Ancient Mariner. So
yes, and it is an expression in English. It's not like a common expression, but it is
very rare expression based off of that poem.
There's wisdom. I made a video about wisdom.
Wisdom's very famous.
But that's one bird, not the species.
Like, I'm trying to think if albatross are obviously the most famous member of the group.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think, are there animated albatross? And then I can't remember if the albatross from bird from the Rescuers movies was a seagull or an albatross. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'm going to say that while wisdom is famous, that this species doesn't seem to be making it up into the famous category. And that's the only... Sure.
It's one of those, I think we have to err on the side of caution sometimes, maybe.
Yeah. Are these birds amazing?
They travel around the world's oceans.
Right.
Like, they're these wanderers that travel vast distances every year. I mean, the cool thing about the tube nose is it helps them excrete salt out of water, which allows them to drink right out of the ocean, which is pretty cool.
Plus, if you needed to put salt on your food, and you could just get it from your salt glands,
blood out of your nose. And then dynamic soaring is such a unique sort of strategy and such a cool way of not expending energy out at sea.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. So let's give them the amazing star for dynamic soaring plus their salt glands.
Yeah, thinking of storm petrels, because I just want to talk about storm petrels, because they basically sort of walk on the waters, but I think they have their wings open, and they kind of use that some of that air current, and they're very light.
Did you just say they walk on water?
Using their wings mostly. They have the big feet, and they use them to sort of paddle around. They kind of walk on water, but it's more like they sort of use their wings to float above the water, and then kind of use their feet to kind of control where they are on the surface.
That's worth an amazing... They walk on water.
They just use that very light fact with probably big wings to be able to do this sort of weird, sort of semi-hovering float movement that allows them to...
And then the albatross have the biggest wingspan out of any bird at 12 feet, which that's pretty impressive also. Yeah,
they're very impressive.
If we could give them 3 amazing stars, I think we would, but there's only one to be had, but they do get the amazing star by far.
And I think a lot of that, as I said, I asked some questions, so I think they also get the intriguing star.
Okay.
I think
so let's talk about why they're intriguing. So there's the fact that they have that lifestyle where they live up in the air.
Yeah, and I would love to know what chemically and sort of neurologically what's going on.
Mm-hmm. How do they sleep?
Do that. Yeah, like what what kind of adaptations does an animal have to do to like do that lifestyle, as a species that just lives on the ground and, sleeps without, also having to move around. There's got to be some weird adaptations to like be able to handle that.
Awesome. Okay, well, we can give them the intriguing star. Are these birds beautiful?
Oh, wow.
Is this bird beautiful?
I think that's a beautiful bird right there. And then if you want to see like the most gorgeous ones, there's, is it the ice petrel? There's one off Antarctica that's pure white. Or snow petrel. And albatross are really nice. Yeah.
This one is beautiful. The white one is beautiful. Albatross are beautiful in their own way. Albatross look kind of like they're sculpted or painted.
Oh, yeah. They're really nice looking.
Yeah. They got 4 out of 5. We're going to see how our next bird group does, which is the Charadriformes.
Sandpiper.
The sandpiper. These are the shorebirds and relatives. Okay, get ready. There's sandpipers, plovers, phalaropes, stilts, jacanas, painted snipes, pratincoles, gulls and terns, seed snipes, sheathbills, skimmers, skuas, and auks.
It's a big list of birds.
There are 387 species in this group. The famous members, there's a lot of bird groups. Gulls are probably the most famous, and sandpipers, plovers, terns, and then the rest of them are debatable, but there's a lot of famous members as well. This group is diverse, but has been divided into the gulls, the waders, which are birds like sandpipers, and the auks, AUKS, which fly underwater to catch fish. Gulls are widespread around coastal cities, even far inland. Since humans historically build their major cities near coasts, there has been a long history of interaction between gulls and people. Gulls are the birds that took your chips when you weren't looking. They also eat fish and scavenge as their natural behaviors. Are these birds diverse, can we say?
I think you just listed off I don't even know how many groups of birds.
I listed off 14 different types of birds, and one of those types is gulls, which itself is fractally diverse.
Yeah.
And then there's 387 species total, which is one of the largest bird groups in the world. So yeah, they get the diversity star on both fronts easily.
Yeah.
Are these birds famous?
I think they're pretty famous. Gulls are another bird that you probably have seen today.
Yeah.
I live thousands of miles inland, and we've got...
Yeah, but you have gulls there.
Bird of Utah for reasons.
Which is 2 states away from the ocean.
Which is, where it is the middle of nowhere, and it's the middle of the continent, and there's big populations of gulls.
Pipers, plovers, I think they all get confused, but I think it would make it onto somebody's list eventually.
People would remember some sort of wading bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's those birds that wade at the beach, right?
Yeah, the killdeer.
You forgot to mention oyster catchers.
Oh no, there's a 15th one. Yeah.
There's 4.
The list just keeps going, but okay, so they're famous.
Yes.
Easily. Just because of their more famous members, I don't think anybody in their entire life is going to remember a seed snipe unless they live near them. But gulls...
I think even still, I think seed snipes are weird. Oh, just weird birds that they're probably very cryptic.
Are these birds amazing?
I think they are absolutely amazing. Really great migrations in these birds. These are the ultimate migrants. So we have, of course, one of the most intense migrations is by the bar-tailed godwit, which fly from Alaska to New Zealand nonstop.
Over the ocean, yeah.
And then Arctic terns are famous for flying from the Arctic Ocean to the coast of Antarctica every year and back.
Mm-hmm. Which is a 12,000-mile round trip annually. You talk about humans that migrate north and south to keep out of winter.
They stay out of the night, basically.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, wow.
They don't want nighttime ever.
They're going to fly all the way to Antarctica.
Summer.
So they have endless summer and endless day.
I mean, they probably, on the way down, they probably experience night, but it's just a mild inconvenience during travel.
Right. This is why we fly this far. Are there any other amazing traits about these birds? Because I'm ready to give the amazing star right now.
Yeah, I'll just give them the amazing. We'll only talk about
the We gotta move on. We can't just keep being impressed by charadri formies. Okay, yeah. They're amazing. Are these birds intriguing?
They have so many cool, like, diverse body forms and stuff. And that's where we'll go in. The sheathbill is the only land bird native to Antarctica.
Okay, as opposed to penguins, which are like marine birds.
Yeah, it's basically just a kind of a scavenger. It sort of hangs around the shoreline, but it's the only bird that, even though it's eating things out of the sea, it doesn't go to the sea to eat them. It lets all the stuff wash up.
Oh, interesting.
Eggs. So it's the only bird that has sort of colonized Antarctica as a mostly terrestrial organism, even though all of its food is coming from the ocean.
It can fly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm intrigued, but I want to know, like, where did they come from? They flew there, and then they stayed there, and they never went anywhere else, even though they can still fly.
Yeah, they're very weird. I'm not sure exactly where they fit in the family, but they're kind of like I would say they're more like a shorebird than they kind of look like a gull, but they definitely have more the lifestyle of a shorebird. They're weird.
Another bird in this group, the jacana.
Oh, yeah.
Its feet.
Yes, the jacana.
So a lot of times when you have birds that kind of like wade around in marshy streams, they have webbed feet with skin in between their toes, and they kind of like paddle around in the water. The jacana has taken a completely different strategy, which is like it has these enormously long skeletal fingers or toes on its feet, but the toes are so long that it spreads out its weight enough that it can walk on top of lily pads.
Yeah, jacanas are cool. Like, they're very... this whole group is intriguing.
Are these birds beautiful?
A lot of the terns are really, really pretty.
Yeah.
And then, this is a great place to put in the puffins, because puffins are like the parrots of the sea. Yeah. Is probably the best way to describe them. Even though they are mostly just black and white, they have these really colorful bills.
Yeah.
A lot of these birds go through sort of the big changes from a breeding plumage to eclipse plumage. So a lot of birds look brown, but when you see them when they're coming through, but when they're up on the tundra, they're absolutely spectacular looking.
Okay.
They're much more defined colors. So
it's a beautiful group, but it really depends what time of year you're looking at them.
Yeah, they have pretty wild changes. But overall, I think it's a fairly beautiful group.
Yeah. 3 out of 5 as 5 stars. I don't think we're in an unusually good mood today. I think this was just just through sheer distribution luck that we got a really solid set of birds, where 3 was the low score out of this group.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody enjoyed lots of stars appearing as we learned about some really impressive and beautiful and famous birds. You can continue following us on this series by subscribing. There's going to be a couple more episodes in this series as we work our way through every single bird group in the world. There's also been a lot of videos that have already come out, so if you haven't seen those already, feel free to watch those on this channel. Also, work your way over to Backyard Expeditions channel. He is teaching all this amazing bird knowledge, everything that you've learned in this episode. You can get more of that by subscribing over on his channel. So I'll see you over there because I will be there too. Thanks for stopping by this week to learn what makes life awesome. Grandpa, tell us about nighttime.
What is this night? It's just the worst.